It's hard to believe it's already time for the 2024 year-end wrap-up. This year I read about 20% fewer books than last year, bringing me into a total of about 80 books. Still a really solid reading year. I took my time a little bit more. I DNF'd a few more books than last year because I DNF'd none last year, but I think I had a great year overall. Most of my books were around a 4 in rating, so I think things worked out well. So let's get into it. Hi, I'm Amanda, and this is Spineless Books, your one-stop shop for all things audiobook. Welcome to my year-end wrap-up where I go through the standard questions that YouTubers are using, and I hope you enjoy. I DNF'd 4 books this year. Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo, Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk, My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, and Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Now, most of these books had issues for me that just weren't making my reading enjoyable, so I decided I didn't need to put myself through that. For Family Lore, I got about halfway through the book. I felt like it should have been wrapping up. I wasn't really that into it, and then I realized I wasn't that far into it, so I just stopped. Haunted, honestly, I didn't love the format, and the gross for gross sake wasn't threading enough of a story for me, so I just decided this is not for me. When it came to My Brilliant Friend, I know that this is a book that's considered by the New York Times to be one of the best books ever, but I actually kind of hated it. I really didn't enjoy the writing, I didn't enjoy the story, and I felt like it was sort of a waste of time. I got about maybe halfway through and then decided to bail, and just never regretted leaving it. Intermezzo by Sally Rooney is the one book of the 4 that I may one day return to. Now, I feel personally like much of Sally Rooney's writing is similar. She has sort of a feel to her writing, and she definitely has a niche genre, and I enjoy it. I have liked many of her books, but with this one, I think what had happened was I had just finished Beautiful World, Where Are You? And then I went into Intermezzo, and it just felt like too much of the same. It's not to say that that book isn't potentially a good book that I will enjoy one day, but I think for me to read 2 Sally Rooney's back-to-back was just a little too much. So rather than force it, I put it down, and I figure there will probably come a day where I'll go back to that one. I don't really have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year. I just sort of read. Typically what I do is I put a whole bunch of books on hold at my local library and I read them as they come in. If I'm not ready, I just push them back a little bit, but that's largely how I determine what I'm doing. Between that and the 3 book clubs that I'm in, I generally have my reading covered for the month, and on the rare occasion that I don't have anything ready from the library, I go into my stash of Audible books that I've purchased, usually on sale or Libro FM. I have a whole bunch of different sources. So I would say the closest thing to mood reading that I did this year was I read a couple of horror books around Halloween by coincidence. It wasn't really on purpose, but I'm not really a seasonal reader. I'm just sort of reading all the time. As far as new releases go, the only thing that I really have in mind that I'm excited about for next year is the second book in the Impossible Creatures trilogy by Katherine Rundell. I know that it's a long way off, but it's something that I'm looking forward to, and I know I will read the first book again in preparation for the second book. I did that this year by rereading House in the Cerulean Sea before I got a copy of Somewhere Beyond the Sea, and I feel like refreshing that first book when you're about to read the sequel is really, really beneficial, and I enjoyed the experience this year, so I'm looking forward to doing that again next year. I know Impossible Creatures is set to be a trilogy, and I'm not sure when the third book will come out, but I'm definitely really, really excited for the second book in 2025. I don't really know if I have a goal of things to finish before the end of the year. I'm just sort of going through my pattern of reading. Right now, I have Memory Police on deck, so that'll probably be a book that I'm in the middle of when we transition from 2024 to 2025, and that's okay. I'm excited about that one. It keeps being recommended to me by all different kinds of online book recommendation services. That seems to be the one book they all agree I should read, so I'm excited about that. I'm also looking forward to Happy Head in January, and I'm looking forward to Good Material. and a few other books, but not really because it's a particular time of year, just because those are the things that are up next. I think I'm going to have a really hard time determining my top 3 this year. I think my top 10 as a whole is pretty solid, and I know what that top 10 is going to look like, but when it gets to those first couple of books and the final order of things, I feel like things are shifting as I'm continuing to think about it. There's one book, for example, that I've recently read that I feel like I didn't initially put in the top 10, but the more I think about it, the more I want to move it into that section, and I just feel like it merits being alongside the other books that are in there. I have one that's really easy to pull out because it's sort of an academic book that I read that's not as much of a reading for pleasure. So I may give this last one a spot by taking that academic book out. I think that'll round out my top 10. Just not sure where it's going to land exactly yet. My reading plans for 2025 are pretty simple. I'm just going to keep reading. I think at this point, my pace of about 80 books per year feels really good. I did 107 last year, and I feel like by doing 107, I was literally never not listening to a book, and that felt a little extreme. I didn't really take any major breaks this year. I think I had maybe one day in the entire year that I didn't have a book going at some point, and that was just because I had a super busy day at work. But I think for the most part, I'm just going to try to aim for this pace. I don't like setting a number goal. I feel like that puts pressure that isn't really necessary, and I just want to enjoy what I'm doing. One of the things I changed this year, and I really think this was hugely helpful, was I allowed myself not to finish a book if I wasn't into it. That only happened a couple of times. I tend to be really good about picking things that I'm going to like. I have so many books for my book clubs that I make sure that the things that I read that are outside of a book club are really interesting to me, and as a result, most of them are usually wins. Of course, I find a dud here and there, but I'm pretty good at picking out stuff that I think I'm going to like. So what are your plans in 2025? Did you meet your reading goal this year? Do you even feel like a reading goal matters? I hope you're out there just enjoying listening to books and enjoying reading whatever it is that makes you happy. But let me know in the comments if there's something that you read this year that really sticks out that you think I should take a look at, or if there's something that you're super excited about in 2025, and maybe we'll end up reading it at the same time. Anyway, I wish everyone a wonderful holiday season, and I hope everyone has a great new year. Stay tuned for my top 10 books of this year, which will be followed by my bottom 10 books of this year, and then I'll release a little video about the stats of all the books that I read this year. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. But remember, you might love what I hate and hate what I love, so make your own opinion. But thanks for listening to mine. Happy New Year!